What about news, man? No news?
Hey, nah, not too bad. Right now I'm like, oh, we got half an hour to go, so I'm like, got a little bit of pressure going, but nah, I'm excited today. So my name's Tim Young. I'm 30 years old from Hamilton, born and bred here. Hey Michaela, can you find that tie clip, please? I'm getting married, which I'm very excited about.
How many years you been in a now?
10 years, from like 3 weeks ago.
From the 11th of February.
I definitely remember what it was like when I first had my accident. I was on a ventilator for 3.5 months. Yeah, I couldn't breathe or eat or talk or anything. In retrospect, we realised I was pretty close to dying multiple times.
All right, let's get going. I'll take my car as well, ideally, because I've got to drive back tomorrow.
So Chris and Kate can't come because I've got a young family and it's too tough logistically. So we can figure out who will fill their place.
Like I feel like we're going to have a lot of people there that have been really good to us and have supported us as a couple. And I don't feel like on my part that I've had to miss anyone out.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's a lot harder for you.
I met Erica 4 years ago when we were studying psychology together. And we've been engaged for 18 months. When I first met Erica, the main thing that I liked is just how easygoing she was, and we had so much in common in terms of travelling to Canada and different music, and she's super smart and really onto it, and she keeps me honest. Of course, we'll just get the taters out. Do you want me to just do a quick...
Oh, no, they look good.
Oh, that's more...
Tim's definitely the chef in this house.
She said it.
Yeah, no, he's a much better cook than I am, so I think we should just stick to our strengths. And
But you're really good at following recipes. And
Sometimes.
You make really good meals, you just have to...
I just need a really long amount of time.
I like it. I like it.
I make some good... He's really funny. He just is a really good-natured guy. Really good humour. He can have a laugh at himself. Yeah, I think we're both reflective people, open to feedback, and we just both want to be better people and better partners.
Yeah, well, Erica's told me that it's a bone in our relationship.
Because of our great communication, I've told you very clearly.
I talked about that, yeah. We have good communication. We communicate about our communication.
We do.
Yeah, you have great communication.
Thanks, you do too.
Thank you.
I've talked a lot with his family about the kind of man he was before his accident, and I really don't think he's that different from what I hear. He's always been really positive and resilient and outgoing and funny, and all of those things that I really love about him were the same 10 years ago.
There he is. Here is a little boy. When I look at these photos, he seemed to fit in a lot. I mean, he had an older sister who was like 5.5 and a brother who was 2.5 years older, who was very active.
Well, he always enjoyed sport and he enjoyed being educated and learning about things. He's got an inquiring mind.
He and his friend Nick never missed a Waikato game. They paint their faces all the time.
Cricket and rugby.
Yeah, cricket, rugby, skateboarding, biking. He was always out with his mates.
Definitely like at high school and the years after high school, Tim was always he was a bit of a character. I guess Jackass and those kind of shows were pretty big, in the early 2000s.
Tim really took to snowboarding, and when he was a scarfie down in Dunedin, he used to go up snowboarding wherever he could. It was such a great thing seeing him go down the mountain at 6'5" at the rate of knots.
At the end of 2008, I finished my BSc in psychology, and then I came third in a poker tournament that netted about 10 grand US, so I was able to pay off lots of bills and plan my dream holiday to Canada to go snowboarding. And travelled to Fernie, which is a small resort in British Columbia, to do a working holiday. About 2 days before we were to fly back to New Zealand from Vancouver, I went to Whistler.
Time, bro.
Yeah, we had 2 really awesome days. Then on one day it was like really sunny and amazing powder, so we had a really awesome morning just snowboarding through the trees and everything. And then we went to the park just for the afternoon. So I decided, I saw one jump that I wanted to try, but I thought the jump was bigger than it was. And so I went up to it quite fast, and then I realised that it was smaller. And then I did a speed check, which is just putting your board sideways to slow down. And so I did a speed check just before the jump, but lost control on the jump. I knew it was going to be a bad ending. Tucked my head forward best I could and braced for impact. Landed on the top of my shoulders and broke my C5 vertebrae. I was lying on the ground and couldn't feel anything, and was trying not to move my head too much, but could kind of just see my fingers flopping around near my face. When I got to Vancouver Hospital, they told me pretty quickly after the CT scan or MRI scan that it was going to be permanent. And yeah, that was pretty tough.
And there was a message from Vancouver General Hospital, and one of the messages was from a social worker, and she said, you know, Tim's had an accident, he's in hospital, and she even put me on the phone and spoke. I could speak to Tim. He hadn't gone into that respiratory shock. He said, "Mum, I can't move my legs." And I'd been nursing for 25 years, so I knew that it was a burst fracture of C5-6.
I think I went into surgery pretty soon after that, and then when I woke up the next day, Mum was there. The first couple of days I was just trying to breathe and cough and stuff like that.
And then Tim got worse really. That spinal shock sets in quite quickly. My niece and I were called at 3 a.m. to go up. He needed a tracheotomy, he needed to be ventilated.
When I had my trachea put in, it meant I couldn't drink or eat or talk.
The first 20 weeks, bad things kept happening. He had recurrent chest infections, he couldn't cough.
I had lots of pneumonias and my 2 pneumothorax, which is like a hole in your lung. In retrospect, we realised I was pretty close to dying multiple times.
It was a long time. And then I'd go back to the motel and cry. One day, I cried in front of him, and he spelt on an alphabet chart, letter by letter by letter. There is no situation which getting angry will make it any better. It's just absolutely scorched into my memory.
Yeah, I was in Vancouver for about 6 weeks, and the last 2 or 3 weeks of that was just trying to find a way to get me home. They decided to send me on a Learjet with a private doctor and nurse. When I landed, it was in the middle of the night, and we went to Middlemore and got put in my room that I'd spend the next couple of months in.
I hear people talking about being in ICU for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. He was in there for 6 weeks in Vancouver and another 14 in New Zealand, 20 weeks on a ventilator, and they didn't seem to be able to get him off it.
And so they decided to then send me to Burwood. Dr. Rick Acklin, who's a spinal specialist, came and started weaning me off the ventilator. So for the first day it was just a couple of minutes, and then the next day it was 5 minutes, and then the next day it was 10 minutes. The next day it was about an hour, and then, yeah, within 5 or 6 days he just completely took me off it, and I was better off it than on it. So yeah, when I got to Burwood, everyone else is like really sad that they're in a wheelchair, and I'm like just stoked I can breathe and eat. And so I was, yeah, well, by the time I got in a wheelchair, I was like flying, I was really happy. Having a fixed mindset is kind of like a habit that people get into, and you kind of just think that your abilities as they are is what you have. But having a growth mindset means that you know that your abilities aren't fixed and that you can get better. So getting my independence back was massive. The more I can do myself is hugely important to me. Quadriplegia and tetraplegia are the same thing, and it just means that you have all 4 limbs affected. And I'm a C5 tetraplegic, which means I injured my spinal cord in the bone 5 from the top, and my cervical part, and so that means that I lost roughly 84% of the use of 84% of my body. I still have my bicep muscles, deltoids, feeling from about here up, and yeah, no hand movement. No, I think it's kind of like when old people say that they feel like they're still 20 inside, but yeah, you look a lot different on the outside. But yeah, I mean, I still feel the same as I did before my accident. So this is my power wheelchair that I was recommended to use when I first got in a chair. They didn't think I'd have the function to push in a manual wheelchair, which I don't, but I found a good compromise with power-assisted wheels. One reason I really wanted to be in a manual wheelchair meant that when I go to a restaurant with any potential ladies that I'd be a bit more, I wouldn't stand out so much, and I'd be able to fit under tables and have nice dates. Very good, thanks. Put it in a bowl and leave it out to cool. I need carers for about 18 hours of the day, and that's for meals, getting me up in the morning. Please. When I first am hiring a carer, they just need to understand that kind of their hands and feet. And they kind of understand the frustration doing everything in your day-to-day life and you not being able to physically do it. Once I like more kind of just aware of that and empathetic, that makes it way easier. Maybe you could just... I really like eating nice food, so I like it's the easiest way to get nice food is to cook nice food. Yeah, if you can just put that bowl in the fridge and also the pork too, please.
Yep, no worries.
Thank you. Figuring out my path forward and where I wanted to go with my career was a really important part of my rehab to have that focus on my next step in life. It was during my time in Build that we figured out that I would like to do a master's in science and psychology. During my thesis, I just found this massive gap in the market for really fun, engaging technology. Rocket Island is like a big 3D open world game, kind of like Grand Theft Auto. Instead, you work with the community and learn about people's specialties. All of the game design is based around the science of learning that is relevant for situated learning and increasing motivation for the students. All of the programming and everything I just learnt from YouTube. There's heaps of schools that are on board now, and I've kind of got that validation that schools are really interested in it.
I think Tim doesn't want people to feel sorry for him. He wants people to be proud of him. Yeah, he's leading his life pretty much as he would have been doing if he still had his legs.
Like getting the car was a really big part of me becoming independent. And just having confidence to like talk to girls and stuff and, you know, not be picking them up in back of a disability van. Straight after rehab to get around, I used taxis. The accessible ones would often finish 8 in the evening or something, and I'd want to be going out to dinner and seeing friends and things, so ACC agreed to lease a vehicle for me to be driven around in. But I was still in the back of the van, so it was really good to get a car that I could drive myself and be up front in. Having like a positive mindset and a good sense of humour for making all my friends and family more comfortable with everything. It's easy to make shocking jokes and get a reaction from people, which is always fun. Yeah, it just automatically puts everyone at ease if I'm not, you know, feeling super sorry for myself. What small black and sits at the top of the stairs? Paraplegic after a house fire. Yeah, so. Yeah. So it's pretty dark. Yeah. I went there, yeah. You know, that's just our reception venue down there.
It's good. Probably known Tim longer, right?
Yeah, maybe by a year. Yeah, so Fairfield Intermediate.
Tim and I played soccer together, so that's when we first met in third form. It's one thing to see your mate, you know, stuck in a chair, but you know, it makes it a whole lot easier if he's, you know, being positive about everything and just able to be realistic and be excited about the future still, you know. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
He's always going to be successful. Yeah. Obviously, being in a chair certainly hasn't changed that. So Tim has always done pretty well with the ladies. Yeah. He's yeah. I don't know. Must just have that glint in his eye or something. But yeah, he's always done all right.
I thought, well, he's got a great personality and he did win people to him with his sense of humour and fun. So I guess I always hoped that something might happen.
After my accident, I definitely knew that it would be a lot harder to meet girls, and so I knew it would be a bit more of a numbers game than it already was for everyone anyway.
So I met Tim a few years ago while we were studying psychology. I thought, you know, he's a good-looking guy. And then when we were introducing ourselves to the class, he talked about his accident and his poker win, and I just thought he was a really interesting person. Tim sent me a Facebook message after our block course asking me out for a drink, but it went to the others folder, which I very rarely check, so I saw it probably about 3 weeks after he sent it. From there, I was living in Auckland, he was living in Hamilton, exchanging messages back and forth. He picked me up in his car.
How messy is the duckling?
It's usually with the fingers. Yeah.
And we had hot dogs, which was very messy. Don't think it was the best choice. And then we went down to Wynyard Quarter and kind of just sat on the pier and talked.
We hit it off really well and we were spending every weekend we could together. Yeah, as we've gotten to know each other better, I've definitely fallen in love with her more.
The fact that he was in a wheelchair definitely was something that I had to think about in terms of pursuing a relationship. Yeah. I remember getting into a conversation with a friend of mine, even before our first date, thinking, what's that going to look like when we're elderly? You know, I was running way ahead before we even had our first date. You know, I have a hearing impairment, and I was talking with my friend and I said, you know, one day I might be completely deaf and then I'll be using sign language, but Tim doesn't have the use of his hands. He's not going to be able to sign with me. And then I was running away with it. But that was kind of in a really silly kind of overthinking kind of way. I just thought that if I was happy and he was able to fulfill me like emotionally in terms of having a partner that's supportive, that I can have fun with, all of those kinds of things, those were the really key things. You know, I just wanted to be treated well, and the fact that he was in a wheelchair didn't stop him from being able to do that. He used to do my hair on special occasions.
Yes, when you used to dress yourself up from school and the teachers called you an independent dresser.
Got to know her parents and I said to them, how are you guys doing with this? Because I really felt for them. If my daughter had come home and said, Mum, I've met this super cool guy and by the way, can't feel 84% of his body, far out.
When we met Tim, you know, she brought Tim round. He had dinner with us and we had a lovely evening, and he's quite upfront and he's just very personable and very friendly, and he's obviously very clever and smart. And after a while, you look beyond the wheelchair. So anyway, they seem very happy together. So if Erica's happy, we're happy, and we'll be supportive of her. Yeah. Once you get your shoes, then that'll decide what length you're going to have.
I think everyone wants companionship. I think we're best friends and we enjoy coming home to each other and sharing our lives. And Tim's got so much exciting stuff going on at the moment that I feel like I encourage him. I hope that he feels like I'm his champion, and just, yeah, I hope that that's what I give him, just someone that's cheering him on and believing in his vision. So it's going to be an outdoor wedding, very green, kind of cream and green flowers. If it could be kind of in the same colour scheme.
We set the date for like 18 months out or something.
The division of planning is probably the same as our cooking. Our cooking division. Tim's definitely doing more than I am, which I'm appreciating. Tim had booked the wedding venue before the proposal. It was a really typical Tim thing to do, very planned and organised and quite rational. So we had gone on a cruise to New Caledonia. It was our first shore day. And we had some drinks beforehand, got all dressed up nicely, and Tim said that we should try catch the sunset. And so I was kind of fluffing around and he was quite eager to get up to catch the sunset. We kind of just managed to get there to the top deck, and I was wanting to look back at Numia and look at the sunset.
Yeah, I started trying to say nice things, but she was busy. I finally clicked on to what was happening. I'd hidden the box in between my legs, and then I'd covered it with my phone and a tissue. And then afterwards I couldn't get it out, so I was like proposing, trying to hack it out between my legs. And then, I was like, can you just grab the box? It was pretty funny. I did not get on one knee. And I think you're good. We'll give it a test. How's that?
It's not pulling on it at all.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, bro.
I've been in other relationships where I didn't feel as secure. I think Tim lets me know every day that he's here for me, he loves me, and he's just always a lot of fun. We don't really clash on anything.
Apart from the cooking.
Apart from cooking, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's pretty minor. I think we're highly compatible.
Yeah, I think, just there's so many people in the world that you're probably going to have more than one soulmate, but yeah, it definitely feels like Erica's one of my soulmates.
He told me recently, he said, she's my number one. And I went, oh my gosh, I want to be someone's number one. Am I your number one?
Well, I thought we were equal.
Yeah, no, I really like Tim's approach.
Graham, thanks so much for coming.
Love you, Tim. Love you, Mum. So excited. I woke up this morning and cried. I just thought, how many miracles have happened for Tim and Erica to get to this day? 10 years ago, oh my gosh, that flight back from there and being rung, going over there and just everything we went through to come back to New Zealand, that 19-hour flight. And then 20 weeks on a ventilator and then 20 weeks in rehab. I never dared dream or think that he would be getting married to this really beautiful girl, and she's such a treasure. And I just see the love over their faces.
I, Timothy James Young, take you, Erica Lamb, to be my legal wife.
Hi, Erica Lamb. I'm Timothy James Young.
take you, Timothy James Young, to be my legal husband.
I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss.
We mainly just wanted a party. We just wanted like a party that everyone, all of our friends and family would have to come to.
We were calling it our love party for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you can definitely cut that out.
Attitude was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.